Parents and families tell me a lot that they wish that their teen, that their adolescent child would make smarter decisions. And usually what happens after this is that I, as the educator, um, you know, remind the families, the parents, that they're teenagers and that their hormones are everywhere and they should be, that the front of their brains are not quite there yet, so their executive functioning isn't quite there yet. And that's, again, how it should be, how it usually is. Still, it's such a big advantage if you can give your teenager some useful frames to make decisions, to start to use their power to decide and use their power to choose in a way that's smart, in a way that actually gets them to the outcome that they really, really want. Okay. So who am I? Why am I talking about this? I am the founder of Off the Beaten Path Learning. My name is Dominique Paloma Bible. I have a master's in education community, education specifically. Here I am with some learners and an educator, that's NK. There's the learners, and this is a Brooklyn paper article that was recently written. Super exciting. I've worked with over 1,000 learners in my career since 2010, and Off the Beaten Path Learning has been around since 2020, and we provide one-on-one education. So why am I talking about choice? Well, first of all, it's at the heart of what Off the Beaten Path Learning does. It's at the heart of why I'm alive today. It was when I found my power to choose and started exercising that power that I slowly was able to climb out of a depression as a teenager and a young adult to now become, a business owner and a fairly well-adjusted person. I can't say that that is success for anybody else, but it is success for me. At this point, I would say that. So how you decide matters so much more than what you decide. Now, part of that is because you don't know. It's very hard to tell, really, if what you decide, even if it leads to a good outcome, if it was the right decision. It's very hard to decide because so many other things have led to this thing, to the desired outcome happening, right? There's luck, there's external events, all sorts of stuff. So it's hard to say really if that decision was good or bad. How you make the decision, that's really the stuff. That's the secret stuff. Because once you have that on lock, everything else becomes easier. Smart decision making. So this is basically what I'm going to go through today. Stories over stats and how we need to kind of balance that reality out a little bit, that we care generally as humans, we care more about emotional stories than we do about facts and figures. And how can we balance that reality when making decisions? Neutrality, the importance and the freedom that neutrality brings. And I say that as someone with a mood disorder. So, conjunction bias. What is the conjunction fallacy, and what kind of bias does it lead us to have, and what can we do about it? How to start something and how to complete something, and what is the secret sauce there, and focusing. So again, it's not what you decide, it's how you decide. And focusing is an enormous part of this. Enormous. Because it doesn't matter if your teenager's like, I'm going to do crochet, or I'm going to learn about NASCAR, or I'm going to, it really doesn't matter. Enter interest goal here. What matters is that they stay focused, is that they not necessarily complete the project or mission or goal that has its own power in and of itself. But what I really mean by focus is know what you're going after and stay on that for that period of time. And when you're done with that, okay, you can move on to the next thing. But for that period of time, you know your goal and you're focused on it. So we'll get into that. All right. Stories over stats. So here's the thing. We're emotional people generally. In fact, literally all the time, we are emotional people. People are emotional. I think blue whales might be emotional. Whales just, I think they have a third limbic system. Is that what I heard? Don't quote me on that. The point of what I'm saying here is that because emotional stories and social incentives make such a huge impact on decision making, we need to just simply face that. We need to look at it in the eyeball and say, okay, I understand that I am going to sometimes be too heated or too excited to, and this is where the neutrality comes in, we'll get to it, but I realize that sometimes I may be too emotionally involved in some situation, in some reality, in some phenomenon. And just simply recognizing that and naming it allows you to make smarter decisions because you are going off that base knowledge that you have to ride the wave of emotion. It's not like you're going to suppress the emotion. I'm not suggesting that you numb or that you ignore or suppress or anything like that. But just by recognizing that this is an emotional, especially at first, when we first learn about something or think about something, we tend to first process it with our limbic system, right? Our limbic system. That's where we feel, that's where we emote. That's where the amygdala lives. There it is in tiny little letters. Amygdala. I think it's like shaped like a pine nut or something. I don't know what I heard. So it first goes through the limbic system, is what I commonly understand people telling me. And that, first they're emotional about something, and then over time they get to be logical. And so just simply by recognizing that this is the flow of your reaction, your response to things, it will help you. It will help you understand the facts that you're looking at because it will give you a clear self-awareness of here's how I'm looking at them. Here's how I'm looking at 64% of off the beaten path learners are neurodivergent and or disabled, right? That's a piece of data. But if I can recognize my emotions around inclusion, around being neurodivergent, disabled myself, then I can understand that when I look at that data, when I analyze that data, I am doing so with a positive bias, with a heartfelt relationship with that subject. And so I'm interpreting that fact. It's a fact, but I'm interpreting it as a positive thing. Not everybody would. Again, simply by recognizing that you're emotional, you can improve how you process. And be wise, right? Wisdom, the idea with wisdom is that we integrate our emotional with our logical. And the book I have here is The Emotional Politics of Racism, which really, really taught me this. It taught me that people, they hear stories, they see videos, like actual videos of things actually happening. Those are facts. It may not be a data point, but in a way it is. It's just visual. It's visual data. And people have their whole backstory, right? All their lived experience behind them, all the information, all the influence that has contributed to them and who they are. And for that reason, they're looking at that video or they're reading that statistic and they're unmoved, or they're really moved when another person is completely unmoved. It's interesting. So, as you can see, the subtitle here, how feelings trump facts in an era of color blindness. So, again, just recognize, just name it, face it, Another part about being emotional, part two, is that it's hard to be neutral when you win, and it's hard to be neutral when you lose. However, it's so useful. It's useful because it keeps you at an even keel, as Kobe Bryant taught me. Um, Not me personally, I don't, obviously, like, why would I know Kobe Bryant? Um, I don't. But on videos that I've seen him be interviewed, this is what Kobe talks about, that he was able to grow and excel and really not even grow and excel, just be the best because every time he won, it was the same exact questions that he would ask himself about it as when he lost. Everything is a learning opportunity, especially those big ups and downs. It's at our extremes that we can really soak up a very consolidated amount of information. And so use that, whether you whether you get a whether your kid is getting great grades or poor grades or no grades, when they win or lose, when they feel as though they have won something or lost something, encourage them to step into a place of neutrality so that they can objectively reflect, objectively use that reflection to grow and to get better. Here's something else to kind of battle in the imperfections of human judgment. When making smart decisions, realize that you are imperfect and that your thinking ability is imperfect. And so, something I think to communicate to teenagers is their imperfection, is to embrace that and to know about it and to be self-aware of their weaknesses, both personal and just human, biological. Sometimes when we think about things happening together, like a feminist bank teller, we assume that there's a relationship there. Um, and this has a way of blurring our understanding and confusing us. So I'm going to explain this through a direct quote. But the point of what I'm saying here is that when things happen together, when you have a feminist bank teller, it doesn't necessarily mean that all bank tellers are feminists or that all feminists are bank tellers. These exist separately. Look at all that black. Look at all that red. There's only this tiny section that exists together. Don't mistake a coincidence or a relationship to like it's always this. Don't generalize. So here's the example. And what's wild is that like almost 90% of people uh, think that the probability that she is a feminist bank teller is greater than the probability that she's a bank teller, which, if you really think about it, is ridiculous. Because the more specific you get, the smaller the chances are. Specific, smaller. Okay, this is about focus. So, um, I've talked about this before. I'll talk about it again. I went to see Layla Ali speak. I didn't even know I was going to. It was kind of accidental. A learner's mom invited me to a coaching event. Layla Ali spoke, and it was incredible. She's the very first thing she said, have the end in mind. The first piece of advice that came through her to the audience of like people that were in business and being coached, have the end in mind. Know where you're going. Know very specifically where you're going. Because the thing is, it's like a rocket. If you have the exact degrees needed to the exact location and the exact degrees, everything is set, 0.36, then you'll get there. But if it's off, even by a little bit, you'll get distracted, and you risk not ending up there. You risk not starting, you risk not finishing. The best way to counter that is to really, really not just be focused, just generally, but be really specific with the goal. And you can help your teens with this. You can ask them lots of questions about the specifics, the where, when, what, why, how, the specifics of the how, their plan of action. All of that stuff can be kind of poked and prodded and get them to think about what it is they're doing so that they can do it and feel good about it. The other thing too is that focus is a muscle. And so reminding yourself and reminding your teen to remind themselves of their goal can be useful. More on focus. Two more things on focus. Control the controllable, which is you and your mind, and stay focused. Know your goal. Know your goal and know your needs to get to that goal. And also know what you have to work with. What are your strengths? So when you're going through with your teenager, what their vision is for whatever it is that they want to do, whether it's finish school on time or start a foundation for animals to help animals, whatever it is, they have their goals. They're specific, they're explicit, they're measurable. They know their needs. They know, here are my weaknesses. Here's my conjunction bias. Here's my emotionality. Here's how I need to stay neutral. Here's my distractibility. And they should also think about what works for them. What are their strengths? When are they good to go? When do they have fun? And when is it easy for them? These are all things to reflect on so that you can stay focused. Basically, these are creative ways to kind of come from different angles at the same thing. Focus on the goal, and everything else, say no. Say no, because when you say yes to that one big thing, you have to say no to all the other things that are trying to get in your way. Bye-bye. Okay. As Alex Hormozy taught me, he's a business, an entrepreneur and an influencer on YouTube and elsewhere, author of several books. Decide, the etymology of the word decide, literally means to cut off. So, like the word decapitate actually comes from the first same root word, cut. Sorry, that was a little graphic. My apologies. So here we have the other thing I wanted to say. It's hard to just. The other thing that I wanted to touch on in the background here is a chimp, and that is because this man you're looking at is Robert Sapolsky. Robert Sapolsky is a neuroscientist, but he's not just a neuroscientist, he's a primatologist, he's a neuroendocrinologist, he studies hormones, he studies stress, specifically cortisol hormone, he studies how stress affects people and also primates, other primates, or wait, you caught me there. I don't know if I think we're great apes. Are all great apes primates? Wow. Maybe. Okay. Point is, focus, but also be compassionate because you will lose track of things. And we are not, the point of me sharing Robert Sapolsky is that we are not in all the control that we think we are. You see here where it says no free will? He wrote this whole enormous book that I read some portion of, and there's a specific chapter on it about adolescence, by the way. He wrote this whole book, and his main argument was that we behave based on so many factors. What did we eat? What did we sleep? Did someone say something to us? Who are our grandparents? Where were we born? all of these, so many things that have nothing to do with what we can control, but affect us deep in our cells, deep in our spirit. So yes, control the controllable to stay focused, but also be compassionate with yourself. Understand, much like all the other things that I'm saying vehemently, please pay attention to, that you're emotional, that you're very often not neutral, that you're very often tangling information. Understand that there will be times when you drift, and explain that to your teenagers and be patient with them and make space for them to be patient with themselves. Okay. Yeah. So the application here and this very blurry picture, excuse me, this very blurry picture is a domino that is only 2 inches tall. And what's interesting is that over the course of time, this domino, this is showing a geometric progression. And the domino over here, oh, over time will go from the Leaning Tower of Pisa to the Eiffel Tower to Mount Everest and all the way to the moon. Okay? So the point is here, be patient. Be patient, stay focused, keep going, express these things to your kids, and trust in that process. This is Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, the authors of the book from which I got this image called The One Thing, and it's all about staying focused on one thing. All right, I'll do that again. This is Gary Keller and this is Jay Papasan, and they are the authors of the book called The One Thing, and that's where I got this image of the domino and that idea of the domino from The One Thing, which is a book all about staying focused. So actually, I think, should I include it? I think I will. If you have stuck around this whole time, I'd like to really thank you and also offer you that if you schedule a call, if you're interested in one-on-one education for your kids or even for yourself, we work with all ages, please use this QR code or go to the website to schedule your call. It's free. And if you mention that you found this video on YouTube, if you mention that that's how you got here, then you get 1 week free, and that can be hundreds of dollars. So reach out, book a call, and thank you so much for staying throughout this whole, no, okay, start. If you stayed this entire time, thank you so much. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you gained a lot. I hope you are able to apply this information to your family. Please use this video to schedule now. If you're interested in one-on-one education with Off the Beaten Path, we provide self-directed ed in a one-on-one way so that learners are deciding what problem to solve and how, and exercising their confidence and their power in the meantime. So it's really all about strengthening decision making. And if you schedule, you get 1 week free. If you schedule and you mention that you found this video, you get 1 whole week free, which is like could be hundreds of dollars depending on your package. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Like, comment, do all the things. Thank you. Thank you again.